Welcome back to our channel, everyone. Today is a beautifully bright day, though the dark, lingering shadows hanging over Genoa City tell a completely different, much more ominous story. We have an incredible amount of intense, psychological drama to unpack today, so let's dive right into the heart of the narrative without any delay. The flight back from Las Vegas. I just keep thinking about how suffocatingly quiet it must have been inside that Newman jet. I can vividly imagine the heavy, oppressive silence pressing down on everyone. Nick, Sharon, Noah, Sienna, Adam, and Chelsea are all finally returning to Genoa City this Friday, but they are bringing the terrifying ghost of the desert back with them. You know, surviving a waking nightmare like that. Being trapped in an exploding, crumbling bunker, enduring the sheer, unadulterated terror of Matt Clark's sadistic games. It doesn't just wash off when you board a private plane. The trauma clings to them like ash. I keep picturing how they must be looking at each other, fundamentally changed. They survived the physical explosion, yes, but at what cost to their souls? The psychological scars they are carrying are so incredibly deep now. And as they touch down in Genoa City, the illusion of safety is just that, a fragile, transparent illusion. They think the worst of the nightmare is over, but honestly, I feel like the true horror is only just beginning to unfold in the quiet, dark corners of their own minds, and sitting right at the absolute center of this psychological aftermath is Sharon Newman. Oh, Sharon, she has been through absolute hell and back when it comes to Matt Clark. Her history with that monster is a dark, tangled tapestry of pure trauma, historical abuse, and paralyzing fear. So when Sienna Bacall stands there, trembling, covered in dried blood, and tearfully confesses that she murdered Matt to stop the bomb, Sharon's survival instincts immediately kick into overdrive. I can almost feel Sharon's mind racing, frantically piecing together the glaring inconsistencies. Sharon is fiercely, almost violently protective of her family, especially her son Noah, and she isn't just going to blindly accept the word of a woman who has a dark, complicated history in the Vegas underworld. Sharon looks at Sienna and sees doubt. She sees missing puzzle pieces that just don't fit the narrative. I mean, if Matt is truly dead, where is the body? Why did Sienna only emerge at the very end, drenched in blood, with this perfectly timed tragic hero narrative? Sharon's severe PTSD makes her hypervigilant, and right now, every single alarm bell in her head is screaming that Sienna is lying. That maybe, just maybe, Sienna is covering for Matt so the monster can slip away into the shadows and strike again. It is so incredibly heartbreaking to watch Noah try to process all of this chaotic information. He is holding Sienna, comforting her as she breaks down into agonizing, hysterical tears over this supposed murder she committed. Noah loves her, deeply and profoundly, but you can see the absolute terror pooling in his eyes. He is suddenly realizing that the woman he loves, the woman he wants to build a life with, might be a cold-blooded killer. The heavy moral weight of that realization. The suffocating guilt that will inevitably haunt their lives in Genoa City. It's actively crushing him from the inside out. But what Noah doesn't know, what none of them know, is the dark, twisted reality of Sienna's confession. I keep wondering, did Sienna make a desperate, blood-soaked deal with Matt in those final moments? Did Matt force her to smear his blood on her shirt and lie to the Newmans, promising to disappear if she gave him a fake death? Or is it possible Sienna actually believes she killed him? Maybe the trauma, the drugs, and the chaos of the explosion warped her reality so much that she thinks she ended his life. But the tragic, terrifying truth remains, Matt Clark is very much alive. The mere thought of Matt Clark still breathing, still out there somewhere in the world, plotting his next devastating move, it sends actual chills down my spine. The writers have done such a brilliant job of building this false sense of security for the characters. The Newmans are going to try to rebuild their shattered lives, genuinely believing the monster from their past is finally slain. But we know better, don't we? Matt is a master manipulator, a sadistic puppeteer who actively thrives on inflicting psychological pain. He is just biding his time, letting them drop their guard, letting them breathe a collective sigh of relief before he inevitably strikes again. And when he does, the devastation will be absolute. Sienna's lie, whether born of a desperate, misguided attempt to protect Noah or a coerced pact with the devil himself, is a ticking time bomb. When the truth finally detonates, it will completely destroy her relationship with Noah, and sitting right there in the wings, waiting with predatory patience, is Audra Charles, ready to swoop in and claim the shattered pieces of Noah's heart the moment Sienna falls from grace. Let's shift our focus to Adam Newman for a moment, because his emotional state right now is a chaotic, turbulent mess of guilt and responsibility. Adam is carrying the heavy, suffocating burden of knowing exactly how far Nick has fallen. He knows that he pushed Nick, that he practically encouraged his brother to take that tainted fentanyl when they were desperately trying to rescue Sharon and Noah from the bunker. Adam thought he was making a cold, tactical decision, keeping Nick functional enough to fight off Matt, but it backfired catastrophically, nearly killing Nick on the spot. Now, as they return to Genoa City, Adam is carrying this dark secret, and he knows he cannot keep it hidden. Adam has always had such a complex, fraught relationship with his father, Victor. But in this moment of crisis, Adam realizes that Nick's severe addiction is completely out of control. I genuinely believe Adam is going to be the one to tip Victor off about the drugs. He has to. It's an act of betrayal born of desperate, protective love. Adam knows that Nick will never admit the depth of his problem voluntarily, so he has to unleash the Newman patriarch to force the issue and save his brother's life. You can just imagine Victor Newman receiving this horrifying information, the great Victor Newman. A man who controls global empires, who manipulates fate itself with a flick of his wrist, suddenly faced with the terrifying reality that his own son is losing a deadly battle to a synthetic demon. Victor is going to want the truth, and he is going to want it straight from Nick's mouth. I can picture the confrontation scene so vividly. Victor calling Nick to the ranch, or perhaps cornering him in a quiet, inescapable room at Newman Enterprises. The air will be thick with an unbearable tension. Victor won't just ask. He will demand. He will look at his son, really look at him, and see the physical toll of the withdrawal. The sweating, the tremors, the hollow, haunted look in Nick's eyes. Victor is going to back Nick into an absolute corner, stripping away all of his weak defenses, all of his desperate lies, until there is nothing left but the raw, agonizing truth. And Nick, oh, poor Nick, his ego is going to be completely, irreparably shattered in that moment. For so long, Nick has prided himself on being the stable one, the moral compass of the family, the ultimate protector. To look his father in the eye and admit that he is hopelessly addicted to fentanyl, that he is entirely dependent on a drug supplied by his greatest enemy, Matt Clark. It is the ultimate, crushing humiliation. I feel like this confession is going to be one of the most heartbreaking, visceral moments we've seen on the show in years. Nick is going to break down completely, the strong facade will crumble into dust. He will have to admit that he is powerless, that he is drowning in this severe addiction, and that he desperately needs professional help. It's a profound psychological breakdown, a necessary destruction of his pride so that the healing can finally, truly begin. And Victor, beneath all that cold, ruthless exterior, is going to feel the agonizing, helpless pain of a father watching his child suffer. This confession isn't just going to impact Nick and Victor. The ripple effects across the entire canvas are going to be catastrophic. Sharon is already standing by Nick's side, acting as this fierce, protective lioness while fighting her own internal PTSD battles. She will be the bedrock of his rehab journey, even as she secretly doubts Sienna. But think about Nikki. Nikki Newman's heart is going to absolutely shatter into a million pieces when she learns the full extent of Nick's struggles. As a recovering alcoholic, Nikki knows the dark, suffocating grip of addiction intimately. She will be drowning in maternal guilt, wishing she had seen the signs, wishing she had saved him sooner. This profound heartbreak is exactly what has been driving her into the comforting, albeit highly dangerous, arms of Jack Abbott. The trauma of Nick's addiction is the catalyst that is tearing the Newman family apart, yet simultaneously, it might be the only thing powerful enough to force Victor and Nikki to drop their petty romantic games and unite to save their son's life. But even as the Newman family faces this deeply personal, life-or-death crisis, the cold, unforgiving wheels of corporate warfare never stop turning. It's almost starting to think about. While Nick is fighting for his life and his sobriety in rehab, Victoria Newman is coldly, meticulously preparing to annihilate Phyllis Summers in the boardroom. The contrast is stark, isn't it? The emotional devastation and blood in Vegas versus the sterile, ruthless calculation in the corporate towers. Victoria is entirely focused on reclaiming the Newman empire, and she is showing absolutely zero mercy. I can see her sitting in her pristine office, reviewing the AI-generated evidence that Victor created, her eyes cold and unyielding. Victoria has always had that ruthless Newman streak, but right now it is amplified to a terrifying degree. She wants her family's legacy back, and she wants Phyllis to pay dearly for ever daring to take it from them. Victoria is preparing to play the hardest, most brutal game of legal hardball we have ever seen. She knows that Phyllis is a survivor, a wild card, who will claw and scratch to the bitter end. But Victoria is holding all the winning cards. She knows about the fake evidence, she knows about the mass exodus of Phyllis's staff, and most importantly, she knows that Christine Romalotti is back as the district attorney. Victoria is looking at this situation like a grandmother looking at a chessboard, ready to declare absolute checkmate. I find myself almost holding my breath, watching Victoria maneuver. She is not going to rest until Phyllis is completely broken. If Phyllis stubbornly insists on taking this to court, Victoria is going to make sure they are armed to the teeth. She will ensure that the Newman legal team is prepared to absolutely decimate Phyllis on the stand, leaving her with nothing but a prison sentence. And what about Phyllis? She is backed into the tightest, most dangerous corner of her entire life. Victor has given her a chilling ultimatum: sign over the company or go to federal prison. Anyone else would have folded by now. Anyone else would have looked at the fabricated evidence, the hostile daw, and the loss of their closest ally, Michael Baldwin, and simply surrendered. But not Phyllis. Her pride, her sheer, unadulterated stubbornness. It might just be her fatal flaw in all of this. She is terrified. Yes. I can feel the absolute panic radiating from her as she talks to her own portrait, trying to convince herself that she can somehow win this impossible war. But deep down, she has to know the walls are rapidly closing in. If she pushes this to trial, she is risking everything. She is risking her freedom, her relationship with Summer and Daniel, her entire future. And Victoria won't lose a single wink of sleep if Phyllis ends up behind bars. In fact, she might even smile at the thought. It's truly fascinating how these two massive storylines are colliding right now. On one side, you have the visceral, bloody, psychological horror of Matt Clark and the Vegas fallout. You have Nick fighting a synthetic demon, Sharon battling her past traumas, and Sienna drowning in a sea of dangerous, fabricated lies. On the other side, you have this immaculate, high-stakes corporate chess match between the Newmans and Phyllis, where the weapons aren't bombs and fentanyl, but AI deepfakes, legal threats, and hostile takeovers. Yet, at the center of both of these chaotic worlds is Victor Newman. He is the ultimate puppet master, the patriarch, the man trying to control the uncontrollable. He is orchestrating the total destruction of Phyllis Summers while simultaneously trying to save his broken, addicted son. It is a masterclass in character complexity. How does a man compartmentalize that kind of dual existence? How does he destroy a life in the morning and try to save one in the afternoon? As we look ahead to Friday's episode and beyond, I can't help but feel this profound, heavy sense of impending doom. The return to Genoa City is not a return to peace. It is merely a transition from one violent battlefield to another. Sharon's deep skepticism of Sienna is only going to grow, gnawing at her until she uncovers the horrifying truth. Nick's agonizing confession to Victor is going to shatter the family dynamic, forcing everyone to reevaluate their loyalties. Matt Clark is out there, breathing, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike and turn their fragile recovery to ash. And in the corporate towers, Victoria and Victor are about to drop the guillotine on Phyllis Summers. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Every single character is standing on a precipice, and it feels like all it will take is one gentle push. One misplaced word, one failed drug test, one revealed lie, to send them all tumbling into the abyss. We are watching a beautiful, terrifying tragedy unfold in slow motion, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way.